Welcome to the Warriors and Wardens podcast, formerly the Origin Canine podcast. We are dedicated to sharing the lived experience of military and first responder communities from Australia and around the world. I'm your host, Tom Brown. Enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Warriors and Wardens podcast, formerly Origin Canine podcast. Today we've got Craig Sanders from the US, current canine police officer, small business owner, all-around good dude. How you going, bro?
Doing well, Tom. Glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Is this your first potty, bro?
It is. It's the first one.
Oh, shit.
So, it's going to get real. So bear with me.
Bro, I did like a little... Made sure I did like an epic PT session this morning, get some cortisol out. When we're done, I'm gonna have to do some breathing and stuff because it's gonna get hectic today, bro. Which is obviously why we cancelled the last one, but we're not going to get into that because I may not recover and you might not either. So we'll work toward it, bro. But dude, I want to rewind a bit with you, man. Obviously, and start at the beginning, bro. I want to hear about Craig growing up, what kind of kid you were. Getting to the cops, that type of stuff. Hit us with childhood, bro.
Childhood was a lot of fun. I grew up in California, racing dirt bikes and riding mountain bikes with I had a same group of friends that I've had since I was 4 years old. Got my first dirt bike when I was 4, and that's all we did. We rode motorcycles every weekend. Went to the lake pretty much every weekend during the summer. Went on a wakeboard. California is interesting because one day I can go mountain biking, surfing, and snowboarding all in the same day. So I grew up doing a lot of those kind of extreme sports. Played 1 year of high school football, but wasn't for me. I ended up breaking my leg racing dirt bikes. The coach told me that I had to pick between football and motorcycles. And
see ya.
See you later. Well, that was my freshman year of high school. So left that, kept racing competitively. Ended up racing off-road in the pro circuit when I was 17, 18 years old. Continued that, started college, and continued racing. But early childhood, I mean, my parents both worked. My dad was he was a highway patrolman, and my mom owned a sign company. So they were busy all the time. And I just kind of was out and about, ride my bike, end up 5 cities over and use a payphone, and I need you to come pick me up. So they never really knew where I was or what I was doing, but no, my parents are awesome. I have one older brother. We didn't get along pretty much at all until he was probably his second or third year of college. He went to study at Oxford in England, and when he got home, I was still racing. I had a pretty bad crash, and he was stuck in England, and I think that kind of changed his perspective a little bit. And then he's my best friend, to this day, and do everything. We were racing together. And then I started beating him because I was on a smaller bike at the time, so he was always faster. And then I got the same size bike as him, and having to try to keep up with him, he was way more talented than me. And I just couldn't let him beat me. So sibling rivalry. But, we go out whenever I get a chance to go out to Texas, go see him and his family. And I talk to him and the kids probably at least once a week. So, and then the plan was originally to go in the military. That's all I wanted to do. and my dad made me promise him that I would go to college first. He wanted me to join as an officer. I was going to go enlisted anyways. Um, but, you know, got through 3 years of college, and he told me that he applied to the sheriff's department that I work at now and didn't get hired. So I turned 21, which was the minimum age, and I applied, a couple days after my 21st birthday, and got a conditional job offer, and called him up and I said, "Well, you want the good news or the bad news?" The good news is I got a job. The bad news is I'm not going back to school. But so I had to then promise him that I was going to finish school. So kind of threw a wrench in my military plans. Hats off to all of you guys that have done it and continue to do it to this day. And that's utmost respect for all of our servicemen and women. And, I got a lot of guys that I work with, but are in the military or were in the military. Some of them are still reserves. And, with the way things are going these days, you never know. But,
yeah, you might find yourself in the military.
Yeah, you never know. But I ended up going back to school while I was working in the jail. With our department, you start in custody, so you're working in the jail, and I did that for 2 years, and then went into counterterrorism. So I was on a task force specializing in radicalization of inmates in our jail system. So got to do a lot of cool work with a bunch of the 3-letter agencies, and ended up joining the SWAT team at that time. Did 4 years on the SWAT team, and was still racing motorcycles. Comes full circle back to that. I couldn't give it up. I ended up breaking my wrist racing motorcycles, and came back to the SWAT team. Went through a SWAT operator canine integration course, and that's when I fell in love with dogs. And left the SWAT team, and spent about 3 years wearing the bite suit every Wednesday. This fly is driving me nuts. So
It's all right, mate. Yeah, that's fine. I was holding a peanut before, and I bursted in my hand, and I got peanut all over me. So that's fine, mate. We both got issues we're dealing with here.
But spent 3 years wearing the bite suit every Wednesday, going out, learning what I could, what I thought I knew. And then ended up still racing motorcycles. Went to Turkey to race the Red Bull Sea to Sky 5-day race. Had a horrible time in Turkey. The race was cool, but the country itself was not kind to me. Leave it at that. But had to run from the cops. Had an interesting time, but came back, and we'll get into it, I'm sure. But that's when I was in a officer involved shooting, and that was kind of the beginning of the catalyst for what I'm sure is going to be a hard point of this conversation of the mental spiral. And got my first dog, and it was all downhill from there. Now I've got 20.
Downhill shit. Yeah, I was going to say, for everyone listening, the dogs you can hear in the background, Craig's got 20 dogs. Are they all Malinois, bro?
I have one single-purpose lab, so the rest of them are Malinois and Dutch Shepherds, and ranging from 10 weeks old to 8 years old. So I've got them all.
Yeah, that's hectic, bro. Yeah, like I was saying offline, man, I had 2 at one point, and I was like, this is too much. It was fun, but it was a lot of work, bro. Yeah. Bro, I want to go back. You brought up a lot of stuff there, man. So your dad, highwayman, that's like a highway patrol. That's a cop, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he never wanted me to be a cop. Here we are.
Is that obviously so he didn't want you to be a cop because obviously the stuff that you see and do and happens in the job and whatnot. But did you
Yeah.
want to be a cop because you saw he was a cop?
Yeah, I think, my dad was always my hero. He was always my idol. I got to, you know, do a lot of cool things because he was able to provide for me and my family. And, I raced motorcycles all over the United States, and he would drive my bike from California to Maryland and everywhere in between just so I could race. And, with that, there was the missed holidays, birthdays, Christmas, all of that. At one point, he was the lieutenant commander of the uh, Running Springs office, which is in the mountains, and he would have to leave in the middle of the night while we were out camping or racing, and he would go to work, and then he would come back in the morning without having slept in 2 days, and I'd be on the starting line, and he'd be right there with me. Um, so seeing the commitment that it took, something I always admired in my dad, and seeing the things he was able to provide for us, and he was my hero. I would not want to be a cop. He didn't come to find out he didn't want me to be a cop because of the things that he had to deal with. He was, in the Rodney King riots, the LA riots.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
dealt with. He was actually in the pursuit with O.J. Simpson. Um,
I'm not a history buff
he
when it comes to OJ. Give me the lowdown on the pursuit with OJ Simpson.
well, O.J. Simpson, the NFL guy, right?
Yep.
So allegedly, he didn't kill his wife. Was not convicted. The glove does not fit. You must acquit. Is the famous line there. But yeah, he was working that day, and he was in the pursuit, and he had a lot of really hard things that he dealt with that I didn't know about until after I became a cop.
Yeah.
And I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and he was in a shooting, and we didn't talk about it. I never knew he was in a shooting until I got in mine, my first one, and it was like, well, it's something that whether he knows it or not, or if he compartmentalized it, he dealt with it the way he did, but it was never anything that came back on me or my brother. So it was 30 years, and I had no idea that he was ever in a shooting. Um, but I think those are the reasons why he didn't want me to be in law enforcement. But he should have said something if he really didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Dude, I want to say two things, man. First of all, like a lot of people I get on this podcast or I speak to through my work have had like, some sort of, had a minimum robust childhood, at the worst, very traumatic. But it's refreshing, man, to hear that you had a great childhood, man, good relationship with
oh
your
yeah,
parents, idolise your dad, you still get along with your brother, all sorts of. It's awesome to hear, man, because it's not, I wouldn't say it's rare in our line of work, but it's I don't know. I haven't encountered that as much as I've encountered the bad stuff.
yeah,
I guess that's what I go looking for, right? But the other
yeah,
thing is, man, why I love this podcast, bro, is because you get to go and give this to your family. And maybe you've never told your dad that. Maybe you've never spoken to your brother about these
yeah,
things before, and they get to hear it on the podcast. That's why it's one of the reasons I love this stuff, man. So anyway, I
yeah,
just thought I would want to throw that in there, man.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of going back like even earlier than any of that. Um, the one thing my dad always kind of instilled on me and my brother was you don't start a fight, but if somebody starts a fight, you finish it, and you always stand up for what's right because it's what's right. And I was in my fair share of fights in high school, but it typically was standing up for other people. You know, one that I remember specifically almost got expelled from high school, uh, rival high schools, and there's a fight, and the security guard tries to break it up, and they both ended up turning on him and hospitalized him. Ended up breaking his jaw. They did a number on that guy. I just happened to be walking by. I saw it, grabbed one of the kids and pummeled him. And cops show up, throw him on the ground, and I walk away. I think, hey, I have scathed this. Nobody knows. That was on Friday night. And I go to school on Monday, make it halfway through the day. I'm like, cool, no problems. And get called into the office. And they sit me in the office for the rest of the day. They never called my parents, didn't really tell me anything that's going on, other than there was the dean of punishment or whatever the hell that guy was, didn't like me. And he kept telling me that I was going to be expelled. And then the school resource officer shows up and he goes, man, I've been looking for you all day. Where have you been? I'm like, sitting here in the office. Like, they're trying to expel me. And he was like, oh, I just wanted to say thanks for standing up for the security guard. You probably saved his life. He's still in the hospital 3 days later.
Shit.
And I just look at the principal. I'm like, hey, can I go home now? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. And in my mind, I didn't do anything wrong. I was standing up for somebody and I was going to finish what somebody else started. And that was the one thing that my dad really pushed on me and my brother. And, I think it kind of comes into play in becoming a police officer. It's like, I'm not here to start something, but if you start it, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to go home to my family. I'm going to make sure my partners go home to their families and that these innocent civilians come out as unscathed as possible. So I think, looking back deep down in my core of beliefs, like, I kind of see it going that route, right? I was destined to be a cop, whether my dad wanted it or not. But yeah, it was quite a ride.
Yeah.
When I broke my leg in high school, I was on crutches for a year, and
Yeah.
several incidents where you know people would try to fight me while I'm on crutches. You know, Several times people got hit with crutches. Look back, I'm like, they're using crutches as weapons, but
Bet you want to hit that fly with them crutches.
it's driving me nuts right
I
now.
can
to sit on my shoulder.
see it a couple of times. I'm like, I want to reach out and just smack it. I'm like the fly ninja, bro, in my family. Like, even like my daughters now are like, Daddy, fly, 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 and I'll just chase around the house.
We have so where I'm at in Norco, it's all horse property. So all my neighbors have horses or livestock of some sort, goats, donkeys, you name it. And the flies out here are horrible. And it's been pretty hot the last couple days, and all of a sudden these flies have come out of nowhere and they're just driving me nuts. Like, I can't stand it. I got fly traps up everywhere, and the one still makes it into the house and
For
it's
the podcast.
driving me nuts. Right. I'm like, dude, the one time I'm trying to be focused, and you know how that is with having ADHD,
Yeah,
trying to not
yeah.
pay attention to the fly, but
That's funny. International fly relations. So, dude, yeah, like I know obviously it's a testament to your dad too. I think that you've gone and joined the cops because he's been, he's sort of shown you that this is what a good man is, etc. And this is a place you can go and be like, this is where I can go and be a good man that I want to be. So that's good, man. Dude, what suburb did you grow up in California?
so I was in Laverne, LA County. So on the border of LA County and San Bernardino County. So probably, depending on traffic, 45 minutes from downtown LA.
What's downtown? What are we talking, like Compton sort of thing? That's
Yeah,
probably the only suburb that I
yeah.
really know about.
I was about 45 minutes from Compton, uh, but a very, very different type of city than Compton, right? I mean, the high school I went to, kids' first cars were BMWs. A very affluent neighborhood, uh, and me and my brother weren't raised that way. We saw our parents work for everything that they had, and you know, it. My first car was my dad's hand-me-down 1995 Chevy Silverado, and that thing was beat to hell. But it was like, if you can't respect this car, why would I give you something nice? And
Mm,
a lot of life lessons that he kind of instilled on us without us even knowing, right? But we were all mad. Wow, why can't I have a new truck and be like all these other rich kids? It's like, that's not how it works.
yeah. The funny thing
But
is, mate, in Australia, like old beat up Chevys and Ford F-150s and Dodge Rams and stuff, like people love that stuff here. A mate of mine
oh
just
yeah,
imported, was it? I think it was an F-150. Yeah, like old school. I'm talking like mid '90s sort of thing. And yeah, they're kind of sought after here because we don't
I
get those big American muscle cars.
I wish I still had that trick. Like, not have to worry about you know things that I can't work on now. Right, everything's electronic. I can change my oil, change my brakes, but once you need a computer, forget it.
Yeah. And
So
dude, tell me about the racing because that's obviously where you've developed a lot of your mechanical sort of man skills, right? And
yeah,
the thing in Turkey, like you don't have to go into it with the cops and stuff, but the Red Bull race, man, you obviously you're half decent. Started at 4 years old. Um, expand. I want to
yeah,
hear a bit more about that before we move on to the cop stuff, man, because it's obviously a fucking big part of your life, man. And you must have been half
yeah.
decent if you're racing for Red Bull. I've only drank Red Bull.
Well, I wasn't racing for Red Bull. It was an event that Red Bull hosted.
Yeah,
Um, it's an extreme enduro in Turkey, 5 day race or 4 days, and then 1 day of pre-riding. But yeah, I wasn't fond of the typical motocross track, big jumps, that kind of stuff. So I grew up doing. It would be more of like the equivalent of the Fink for you guys with no trucks. It was all dirt bikes, and be 100-mile race, and you know the first 50 miles of that race were as fast as you could possibly go. You know, I've hit the ground at 100 miles an hour, but then like the second half of that race was very technical, slow speed, and that was the stuff that I enjoyed. I didn't like going fast when you fell. Uh, but so that's what I grew up racing. My dad grew up racing desert, so he kind of geared us towards that kind of motorcycle riding growing up. And we would go out to the races when we were young before I could race, and we would go out and watch. And there's a famous race that used to take place from Barstow to Vegas. So Barstow, California, and you would race through the desert to Las Vegas, Nevada. And we had family members. My grandpa grew up racing that, and family friends that my grandpa's friends, they grew up racing that stuff. And so I always enjoyed that type of racing. And there's a guy, he's since passed, but his name's Tony Ryder. And Tony Ryder is a mechanic by nature. I mean, this guy could fix anything. So whenever I broke anything on any of my bikes, my dad would take me over to Tony's house, and he would help me fix it. He taught me to weld. He taught me to, fix engines and lace up wheels, you name it. And I was very hard on equipment. I was breaking parts left and right. So I was over there a lot. And that's where I got to learn most of my mechanical skills. My grandpa owned a tire shop, and he had every tool known to man. And so when he passed, he handed all his tools down to me because I was the only one in the family that worked on things. And I remember I was I was probably 14, 15 years old, and I blew up a motor, and I had a race that weekend. And must have been 15 because I was working at a motorcycle shop. And so I brought home the parts. The guys at the motorcycle shop told me, hey, these are all the parts you need to fix your engine. All right, cool. And I remember being in the shed all night long, wrenching on my bike. My dad comes home from work and I have a motor torn apart, and he's losing his mind. He's like, what the hell have you done? I'm like, well, the guys at the shop told me what I needed to do, so I just figured I'd try it out. Got the bike running. That was the first of many engine rebuilds that I did, and we went and raced, and that was my life. I didn't do anything other than race dirt bikes and downhill mountain bikes, doing the biggest jumps I could on mountain bikes, jumping off cliffs, and building trails. I was never like the party kid. I don't think I went to a single party, high school or college, up until like my second year of college. I never drank alcohol until I was 22 years old.
Shit! Wow.
Racing, like I didn't want anything to affect my ability to race, and that was everything to me, was racing. So my dad drove me all over. I remember we would race in Utah or Idaho on a Saturday, and then he would drive me all the way back to California Saturday night, and I would race Sunday morning in California. And we were just that's all we did. So I got to spend a lot of quality time with my dad, just me and him, driving to races, doing guy stuff. So that was like the fun part of life. I didn't want to do anything else. So,
Yeah, that's it. What about your brother,
yeah.
man? What does he do?
My brother is an accountant. Um, he lives in Texas, and my brother is a genius, like hands down the smartest person I know. And he can do pretty much anything with no effort. Like riding bikes and dirt bikes, everything came naturally to him. Where like I had to work really hard at everything. He would go 2 years without being on a motorcycle, and he would jump on a motorcycle and he'd be on my ass. And I'm in the gym 7 days a week. I'm riding dirt bikes, 2-3 times a week. And here he comes, off the couch, partying in college, jumps on a bike, and he's giving me a run for my money. So like everything was very natural for him, and but it wasn't his thing.
Yeah.
So
different, like totally
we're
polar opposites to you. Same parents,
yeah.
same home, everything. Yeah, it's interesting like that, hey?
And I mean, like he's the guy that when I was getting my bachelor's degree, so my undergraduate, anything math related, I am horrible at. Like I can't. I still count with my fingers.
Guilty. Yep.
And I had to take a statistics class, and I'm failing miserably. And my brother can be, working on his computer and explaining statistics to me without even thinking about it. And then same thing, I get my master's degree, so I have my graduate degree from Arizona State. Same thing, I had to take a statistics class. I'm like, what do I need statistics for to be a cop? Like, I'm not the guy behind the computer. I drive a police car. That's all I care about. And
what did you study at college? Just to bump in.
So my undergraduate was in criminal justice, I got that
Gotcha.
through California Baptist University in Riverside. And then my graduate degree is in emergency management and homeland security with an emphasis in counterterrorism. Uh, don't know why I decided to get a graduate degree, but work was paying for it, so figured why not. But it's something I'll probably never use, uh, but I have it. Got the cool
Yeah.
paper that sits on my wall. But yeah, that was through Arizona State, all online. Never had to step foot in a classroom, which was nice. Kind of
And
go
so,
at my own.
sorry to cut in again, man. This
No,
this
you're good.
this one that you started, this is when you were a cop. But what about college? You did 3 years of college.
So I did 3 years of college. That was still studying criminal justice.
Gotcha, gotcha. Sorry, so you were setting yourself up for the future, is what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at. Yeah.
yeah. And that was more because my plan was military. Like I wanted to go in the military, and I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do after? Right? Like, say I don't make a career out of the military, I do my time, and what am I going to do following that? What else? I didn't know anything else other than what my dad did. Well, I guess I'll be a cop. But it never really crossed my mind that I would actually go into law enforcement. It was kind of like a backup plan. And turns out that backup plan is now the primary plan. But yeah, so it was always kind of, I told my dad I'd get a degree, and that was the only thing I could think of. I don't want to be a liberal arts major or something. I don't even know what these degrees are these days.
Feminist dance
And
therapy or something. Yeah.
yeah, underwater basket weaving. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, no, that's right. I was just trying to get an idea about the college thing because we don't really have the same sort of bouncing ball pipeline that you guys do, right? It's not, we've got university, but it's like, yeah, you can live in, but it's kind of not like the college you guys have there, if that makes sense. So we're not really big
yeah,
on like, yeah, you have to go to college, you got to do this, you got to do that. But and also the military cop thing, I think over there, obviously they're viewed as a very noble profession. It's sort of like a way to earn your place, so to speak. But here it's a bit different where we're somewhat apathetic towards that. So it's always interesting for me to hear that your, primary and secondary plan was military and cops. It makes sense for you guys, but for people outside of our world, it's a bit different here.
and I think it depends on where, right? Like, and in the generation, you know, um, like like my grandparents' generation, World War II, they were military was loved, and then Vietnam, and then those guys came home from Vietnam, and people hated them, right? So since then, yeah, our military is definitely viewed pretty highly, I believe, but in the last 10 years, I've seen law enforcement, the view of law enforcement take a very drastic turn
Mm.
where, you know, people hate us just because of the uniform we wear. They don't know anything about us personally, right? But because we're law enforcement, we are not liked. So again, I think that depends on where in the country you are. Um, but I've witnessed it firsthand change just within my career. So I think I'm lucky enough to work in a county that they love us. Right? The majority of the citizens in the county I work in. I mean, I go to a coffee shop and they're practically getting in an argument with somebody because they want to buy me coffee. I'm like, well, I can't I can't have you pay for my coffee. I can pay for my own coffee and or like lunch. I ask for the bill and they're like, it's that guy over there took care of it. All right, but if you go to LA and it's a totally different perspective, and that's just one county over. So
Yeah. And it's definitely because you're a
yeah,
cop. It's nothing to do with like being a big, strapping, good-looking dude, right? Like, do
definitely
the
not.
so the old crusty dudes get their coffee bought for them as well, or just the young fucking young rigs?
Surprisingly, it's everybody with us, you know. So I can't take my looks into consideration because I would disagree with you. But yeah, the people that in the county I work for, they're awesome. You know, we have a very positive view. Uh, you know, kids that you drive up next to them at a stoplight, and the parents are rolling down the windows so the kids can wave at you, and so we're very fortunate in the area I work. It's not
Yeah,
really a super tough area.
that's good, man. That's a good thing, bro. It'll be good for your fucking mental state too when you're at work, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Mate, hit me with the walk me through getting into the cops, the stuff in the jail because that's interesting as well. They make you go to the prison first. Sorry,
yeah,
the vernacular is new to me as well. Jail, prison, penitentiary. There's a bunch of different terms you guys use over
yeah.
there, right?
Prison and penitentiary are kind of the same. Jail. So jail is where you go before you're sentenced,
Okay.
and you do your time. If it's well, it used to be if it was less than a year, you did your time in county jail. So the county jails are run by the sheriff's department from whatever county you're in, and then the prisons are run by the state. So CDCR, California Department of Rehabilitation, they corrections and rehabilitation, they take care of everything long term, right? So if you're looking at going, you get sentenced, and traditionally it was over a year. Now it's who knows what, but then you would go to the state prison, and you'll do your time there. And so, yeah, like I said, I applied to the sheriff's department like maybe a week after I turned 21. The minimum age requirement is 21. And, you know, thinking it was going to take the process in general between, you know, the whole background investigation, the medical interviews, testing, all of that was going to take a year, is what I thought. Had enough time to finish college before that even became a question. Uh, I started the sheriff's academy. So my birthday's in May. I started the academy in August. So 3 months later, 21 years old, green as can be, and here I am, going to be a cop. Uh, so I did a 6 month academy, full stress academy with the sheriff's department. You know, having the TAC officers yelling and screaming at you for, you know, your shoes not being shined or whatever. Um, but I think that was an important part for me because, you know, 21-year-old punk kid that all I knew was racing motorcycles and riding bikes. And it kind of prepared me to go into the career. Right. And then when I graduated the sheriff's academy, went straight into the jails. And I hated every second of it. But that's where I got to. I mean, you're in a concrete building with no windows, right? So
Yeah.
you don't see sunlight. It's horrible. You know, I would get to work before the sun came up, and I would go home when the sun went down. So like there would be weeks at a time where I didn't even until it was my day off. I never saw the sunlight, and working there, you know, I hated it. I couldn't get out of there fast enough to go to patrol and push a black and white and do what I signed up to do, right? Like I want to be a street cop. That's what I wanted. But being in the jail taught me so much. You know, I learned how to talk to criminals, right? Learned what they do, how they try to get away. You know, you'd be surprised at what these people will tell you uh, if you're not just a total a hole, right? Like there's some
Mm.
guys in there that I'm the law. You're a crook. I don't respect you. You don't respect me. We hate each other. Whatever. But my cousins, I have two cousins that work for CDCR, and they would tell me whenever we had inmates that were coming down from the state prison to my county jail, whether they had new court cases. We had a Prop 47, was a proposition that basically made drugs legal, decriminalized hard drugs, and people were having reviews of all of their drug cases. They went from felonies to misdemeanors. So my cousins would tell me, like, hey, you got this guy coming down. He was in the Corcoran Shoe, the strategic housing unit, right? The isolation. The guy's so dangerous, he can't be with anybody else. And they would come down, and I would just go talk to him. And I knew all about these guys. I knew what their nicknames were. I knew what they did in prison, knew who they were celled with. And these guys looked at me like, wait, why do you know this much about me? Right? And I'm like, hey, if you don't give me any problems, I'm not going to give you any problems. And they would tell me all kinds of things, right? How they were committing crimes, what they were doing to try to get away. You know, nobody wants to fight with police dogs. So they're like, oh yeah, when the dogs came, that's when I would give up. But if the dogs didn't come, I was going to fight it out. Or, people turning things into a whole SWAT incident. And I was talking to these people and just learning as much as I could. And by the time I got out to the streets, became a street cop, it wasn't hard for me to pick out the crooks. Right? I worked in a very affluent area. So when people would come into that area to commit crimes, they stuck out like a sore thumb. And it was like, man, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I can just go down to the local Walmart and sit in the parking lot and watch people drive in and stolen cars, or, using drugs or whatever it may be. And it just made my job so much easier. But yeah, it was an interesting time. With our department, when you promote, if you go to a supervisory position, you go back to the jail as a supervisor before you can be a supervisor in the street. And then if you're a supervisor in the street and you promote to lieutenant, back to the jail. So every time you promote, you're headed back to the jail, which now I'm never promoting. I run dog. I'm going nowhere, right? I have no desire to step foot inside that building, but I did learn a lot. It was, especially for a young, naive kid that grew up in a nice area. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was getting into. So,
Yeah. Did you any sort of incidents ever occur there, or was it pretty low level, pretty quiet?
I was put on a hit list. There was a gang, a street gang that put me on a hit list. And again, right, like, because I knew who these guys were coming down from state prison, it was a Crip gang that their little gang leader in the jail didn't like me for whatever reason. And he put me on a hit list. And there was a blood gang member. And this guy, he had been in my cousin's prison. So I knew all about this guy. And he was the only person awake when I got to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'd go through and I'd count my inmates and I'd just have a conversation with this guy. And he's like, hey, you didn't hear it from me, but you're on a hit list. All right. Like, whatever. Like, what am I going to do? So I went and I told my supervisors, and they were like, well, are you afraid? I'm like, I don't know. Should I be? Again, young kid, didn't know any better. And then it wasn't until I saw people starting to follow me home. I
No
was,
shit.
I was living at my parents' house and trying to save up money to buy my own place. And I kept noticing the same car. And it definitely didn't belong in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And there was one morning I used to ride a street bike. And I was riding my street bike to work.
Like on the
and
road.
this car, yeah,
I fucking hate you. All right.
not a cycle
Oh,
bike, like an actual
okay, yeah.
motorcycle.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, it's all right. I was going
And
to say, fucking, this podcast is over.
you didn't like the spandex jumpsuit?
I fucking hate bike riders on the road, bro. Mate.
Yeah, and so I'm getting on the freeway, and I see that same car that's parked on the on ramp, and I go past it, and the headlights turn on, and it gets behind me, and it was a 33-mile trip from door to door from my house to the jail, and I make it about halfway, and I'm doing 95 miles an hour, and this car's right behind me, and I get a little bit closer to the jail, and they pull up next to me and try to run me off the road, and I'm riding a motorcycle. Like, what am I going to do? I tried to get my gun out. I always carried a gun with me when I was riding, and I'm trying to get it out, and it was stuck in my leather jacket. And I'm thinking, I'm done, right? Like, nothing I can do.
Yeah.
So I hit the brakes. They go in front of me. They slow down. I swerve, and now I'm doing, 115 miles an hour. And they come up next to me again. They're trying to hit me, and I take off. And I was riding a Yamaha R6, and that's the fastest I ever got that bike. I was doing like 140, and jumped off the freeway, going the wrong way on one-way streets.
Oh
Pull up
shit.
to the jail. Yeah, it was chaos. I pull up to the jail, run inside, tell my supervisor what happened, and he makes a couple phone calls. They confirmed that I was on a hit list through all the inmate letters they write each other. And so they make phone calls. The jail I was at was connected to 2 other jails. So there's 3 jails in total. And all of a sudden, every deputy that worked in that facility, all 3 of those jails, shows up at the housing unit that I was working. And it was basically like game on, right? If you want to fight him, you're going to fight all of us. And the guy that put me on the hit list was the only one that didn't try to fight. I walk up there to open his door. They pop the door open. He reaches over and closes it. Like, is this guy serious? Like, big tough guy, and now he's cowering. Well, all of his little friends just found out the hard way. And so that was the only incident that I had in the jail.
Yeah.
And then
It's decent, my man. Like,
I left. Yeah.
I just did some calculations. 140 miles, 225 kilometers an hour. That's quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was like the first time in my life that I had that near death feeling that wasn't caused by myself, right? Racing motorcycles, like, all the times I hit the ground, like, that was my fault. But now I have somebody else that's trying to run me off the road. And that was the first experience with that. So yeah, huge adrenaline rush, it was sold the motorcycle after that. It was like, I'm done with this thing. I'm going to die. So it definitely had an impact, and I didn't realize it until probably 6 years later. I had no concern about it, whatever. And 6 years later, I was like, that really affected me. Going through therapy and doing all the hard work on myself, when I finally realized, like, this did play a role in part of the traumatic experiences that I had. So,
Yeah.
It's
Interesting to know, man. You've got to know that history of yourself sometimes, but it's not until things fall apart that you start going, oh, fuck, what do all these pieces mean? What do they fit in and stuff?
right. Right.
Yeah. And if you're a cop, you got a lot of pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of pieces.
So that's when you left, and then you on the road as a beat cop. Run me through life as a beat cop, man. Obviously, you've had a somewhat of a gentle intro, I guess, to being a cop. Um, yeah, what's it look like being a beat cop? Sort of jobs you go to, any favourite jobs, that kind of stuff.
So all of the jobs that I went to, right? I went from anything, the area I work. If you call 911 or you call the sheriff's department non-emergency dispatch line, you get a cop, right? You call, a deputy responds. So I went to anything and everything from old ladies that just needed somebody to talk to armed robberies, burglaries, attempt murders. Uh, it was relatively uh, low key for me. Probably the first 2 years that I did out on the street, and then one call that really sticks out to me was 18-year-old kid the day after Thanksgiving murdered his dad. Bashed his head in with a boulder. Ends up calling his uncle. Uncle calls the police. I'm the first one on scene. I have no idea what I'm walking into. So he was in a little wooded area of a park, and I go down this ravine. I come up the other side. There's no cover. I was on the SWAT team at the time, and so I'm thinking, cover and concealment. The only thing there is concealment. I'm going up this other side of this embankment behind bushes. I don't know if this guy's armed. I got no idea what I'm walking into. And I see him. He's just standing there. He's looking up the helicopter, not paying any attention to me. I go, and the thing that sticks out most, my rifle, my AR was stuck in the rifle rack. It wouldn't unlock. So now I'm thinking, potentially armed person, and all I have is a pistol. And now I got to go hunt this person down. Thankfully, 18-year-old kid, not all there, looking at the helicopter, and then follows everything I tell him to a T. Like, it was the weirdest experience. I have had people that aren't even guilty of crimes, they haven't done anything, be more uncooperative than this kid. And then I get him handcuffed. Other deputies get there. I pass him off, and I go to try to do life-saving measures on the dad. And I find him on the backside of this hill, and his head was two-dimensional. Like, it was flat. It was like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, there's nothing I can do for this guy. That's it. So when we interview him, ask him why. Like, you're 18 years old, this is your dad. To me, I could never fathom trying to hurt my dad. And the only thing this kid would say, you wouldn't understand. I'm like, try me. I'm a pretty reasonable person. You wouldn't understand. That's the only thing he would say. And after that, I found myself going to a lot of those types of calls, the violence. Those were the fun things that I wanted to go to, right? I wanted to find bad people, and I wanted to put them in jail. And had, suicides, attempt suicides. One, I thought the wife tried to kill her husband. And I'm sitting in the hospital with this lady. Their 12-year-old son drove the car as dad's running out of the house, puts him in the car and drives him to the hospital. And I show up to the hospital. There's the wife, talking to her, and I just like, look, I'm going to be completely upfront. I have to disprove an attempt murder. And she's like, oh, I have video. Pulls up her phone. There's the security cameras. And sure enough, this guy tried to kill himself. and she's trying to stop him. This anything that I thought I knew about people and their psyche and all that stuff right out the window. So I found myself going and really kind of seeking out those jobs, right? Like I wanted to be the one involved in the high risk stuff. But yeah, so I did 5 years in patrol operations as just a beat cop, going to all of those. You know, been to several murders, several attempt murders, assault with a deadly weapon, robberies, you name it. Those were the I would volunteer to go to those calls. They would dispatch it to somebody else, and I'd get on. And I'll be en route to that. That's I'll take it. Which people usually tend to try to shy away from those calls, but that's where I had fun. You know, I felt like I thrived in that chaos. That's when I could make decisions. I could think clearly, and it just came natural, which was very weird to me. That it was like an addiction. Need to go do those things, which is very bizarre.
Yeah. No, I actually think it's normal for people like us, man. I think I think there's nothing wrong with that, man. Hence why you went to cert. Hence why you went to canine. Is it feeding time there? Is it, bro? Those dogs are going bananas.
No, a truck just pulled in, but I don't know who they are or what they're doing. So,
Were there any kind of jobs that you didn't want to go to, or ones that you didn't enjoy? I mean, there's some fairly obvious sort of things in there, but anything particular for you?
for me, it was identity theft, fraud, and petty theft reports. I hated those. They were boring. I couldn't focus. I couldn't, you know, I'd be getting the information from people and I would check out. Like, yeah. You know. And then I'd go back to write my report and I'd find myself having to call these people and be like, what'd you tell me? I didn't write it down because I didn't really care, right? Not that I didn't care that they went through this, but it wasn't exciting to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until actually my dad put it in perspective for me. He said, you know, most people only have contact with law enforcement on the worst days of their life. So to this person, you know, the identity theft or fraud that they gave somebody, you know, they wired the Prince of Sudan, you know, $20,000 because they won the lottery and they want to send them money, whatever it is, you know, the scams. To them, that may be their worst day, the worst day they've ever had. To me, it was like, you're really calling the police over this? Because I went to way worse things, right? So how could that be your worst day? And it wasn't until my dad put that in perspective for me that I was like, you know what, you're right. Like, most people aren't going to go seek out contact with law enforcement, right? They may say hi in passing, but they don't want to have extended contact with somebody, have a conversation, right? Especially when they're the victim of a crime. And that really changed my perspective to where I started putting in more effort, right? So I was like, man, that makes sense. It sucks for these people, but didn't make me enjoy those calls anymore. But just kind of tried a little harder, be compassionate, understanding. They're going through that.
Yeah, and that's a good bit of introspection too. You know what I mean? That's maybe that's something a lot of people don't do, right? So if that's your mentality, right, you want to do the cool jobs. Obviously, you've gone to the SWAT team. You spent 4 years, you said, on the SWAT team?
Yeah, 4 years.
Can you run me through, is that like a full-time SWAT team or you become a qualified SWAT? Okay, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so our SWAT team, we have a full-time element. It's like 10 guys, 2 supervisors, that their only job is they do SWAT stuff and high risk warrants. And the rest, we have a 45-man team. The rest of the team is ancillary. So, you could be assigned to the jails, you could be assigned to patrol, any of the jobs that we have, but you're also a member of the SWAT team. So when a SWAT call comes out, they're calling you out from home, they're calling you from wherever your primary work location is, and you're responding to it. So it wasn't ever my full-time job. It's just part-time.
Yeah. So how does that work, right? Obviously, you're on call. You've got your patrol car at home. They've got the SWAT guys get the call. Full-time dudes go out, do cordons or whatever. Got some sort of like CPP or something, and then they go, "Hey, we need to call Craig and Johnny and fucking Luke or whatever." And then you guys just roll out there, kit up because you're on call, and then you just jump in the stack with the lads.
Pretty much, yeah. We would get the call initially. Call goes out in patrol. They determine we have a SWAT matrix, right? If it meets certain elements, then it becomes what they call a tactical support element, which is the full time guys. Or anybody that's actively on duty. They'll respond to it, and they'll start setting up the chess pieces. And then if they determine, what, we need more people, we need armored vehicles, whatever it may be, then it turns into a full SWAT activation. And from there, yeah, you get the call. We didn't have take home police cars or anything, so you drive to the incident in your personal car, go to the command post, check in, and they'd say, okay, you're going to be on the entry team, or you're going to go to containment position, or I was a sniper, so it's like, hey, we need a sniper set up over here. Go figure that out, scout it, set it up, whatever it may be. But it was. You typically get anywhere from 5 to 10 guys initially, and then it would just grow and expand from there.
And what kind of jobs are you doing with those guys? Like, obviously you're a sniper, but are you doing the assaults as well?
So the time that I was on the team, I very seldomly made entry, right? So I was in a containment position, or I was a sniper set up on it, but I wasn't the guy making entry. I went through breaching school, but there were more experienced breachers, so those guys would go. The team when I was on it was not a very young team, so we had a lot of experience, and it tended to be the same group of guys making entry, which was hard for me because I felt like I wasn't being utilized and I wasn't getting the experience that I needed to eventually take over that role. It's always one thing when you're at training and the layout of the building. Okay, this is what we're doing. I know exactly where to move. It's a sterile building. There's no furniture. What happens if I run into a couch or a bed? Right? We didn't have that. So I had a hard time with that because I just felt like I wasn't being utilized as I could be, and I wasn't gaining the experience that I could be. It has since changed, which I still deploy with the SWAT team just in a canine capacity, and these guys do a really good job of getting people experience and understanding, like, at some point they may be moving on in their career, and if they promote and there's not a supervisor spot on the team, they get a year. After that year, they're off the team. So they got to prepare these younger guys to step into those roles. And now they are doing a much better job of preparing the younger guys to take those roles on.
Yeah, that's good, man. But what about when you were on the team, man? Were there any like favorite jobs that you did, or was that kind of the majority of the work that you did?
Was kind of the majority of the work I did. Um, like obviously the favorite ones for me were when I got to be in a sniper capacity because that's where I felt like I was being best utilized for my skill set. Um, but those were very few and far between. We're a very urban location, We're not, you could probably make the longest shot you need to with a pistol. And now here I am with a 308, with a magnified optic and, you know, but those were my favorite jobs that I got to have the potential to use my skill set. Never did, thankfully, but there was one time in particular that I remember that got close to that. It was a second level apartment and or condo, and the guy had been shooting rounds off through the window, and I set up in a neighboring uh, condo across the drive from him, and I'm looking through my optic, just scanning, watching this guy as I could see the gun on the back of the couch through the window, and it's right next to the front door. And I got guys right below that window because there was nowhere to take cover. The armor was practically useless because the drive was so narrow that this guy's just looking out right over the top of him. And I just remember, watching this guy's every move. And then he'd go over to the gun, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to pick it up. And if he picks it up and takes one step towards that window where my guys are at, like, I'm going to have to make that shot. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. They ended up gassing it and sending a dog. And that was one of the first live deployments with the canine where I was like, man, there's something to that, right? Like, that's cool. And that was kind of what started that mentality for me of like, maybe I want to be a canine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I want the dogs. So I stayed on the team for a little bit longer after that, and then broke my wrist racing dirt bikes, and came back. I had a titanium pin put in my wrist, and I'm like, if I have to swing a ram right now at a door, my wrist is going to break. Like, I'm becoming a liability. And that was really hard for me to accept that I can be putting other people at risk because I can't perform whatever my job may be that day. So I stepped down from the team, and I was just working as a street cop. And that's when I said, you know what, finally got healthy. My wrist was better. And I was like, I'm gonna really give the dog thing a try. That's where my heart was. I always had dogs growing up, never any working dogs, but I'm like, I'm gonna give this a go.
Yeah. So you put in for it. You go to canine school. Is that how it works?
So I put in for it, and I was just decoying for 3.5 years. So spots came up, other guys got them. There were guys that were decoying before me that filled those positions. And my supervisor now, he was on the unit at the time. And when he was promoting out, he selected me to take his spot. And so that's how I got my foot in. I wore the bite suit 10 hours a day on Wednesdays. That was the canine training day. And I put the bite suit on, and they put me in horrible spots, and I did my best to not complain and show them like, hey, I can be an asset. My biggest thing was I always wanted to be an asset wherever I was, whether that been on SWAT, patrol, canine. I wanted to provide more. I didn't want to just be status quo.
Yeah, nice. And was Solo your first dog?
No. My first dog is Keto. I got him at 3 years old, 3-year-old Mal. trained in IGP Schutzen. I had him in service for a little over a year and had a ton of give ups, people surrendering, never had a chance to deploy him until about the first deployment. And I knew nothing about training an apprehension dog. Like he was a dual purpose, so his apprehension and firearm detection. And I knew just what the guys before me were telling me. I knew nothing about training dogs. And I got my first opportunity for a deployment, and Keto got stabbed. So he took a box cutter to the neck. He ended up with a like 8-inch laceration. Thankfully, the blade on the box cutter wasn't open all the way. So it wasn't a full depth laceration. And it just barely, missed some vital arteries that would have killed him. And then after that, he was just like, why am I going to do this? He didn't want to bite. He didn't end up biting that guy. He tackled him and then essentially went into a muzzle fight with no muzzle on. That's when he got stabbed. And the guys on my team, we tried everything we could to try and fix the problem. And it was just not working. I had a second deployment after that. A guy in a stolen car, not wearing a t-shirt. Deploy him into the window, jumps through the window, bites and lets go. Jumps out of the car, comes right back to me. I'm like, really? Send him out again. The guy rolls the window up and he smashes into the window and was like, I'm done.
Ooh,
right, so ended up retiring him after a little over a year, and that's when I got solo. And when I got solo, I told myself, like, I need to know everything there is about dog training and training an apprehension dog, because I'm not having this happen again. Like, this is not cool. So I took a deep dive into dog training, and I sent myself through all kinds of dog training schools. Any class I could go to, I was taking. Had some really awesome canine trainers that I got to learn from. And guys from the sport world all the way to other cops that were either retired, some of them were active, and they were teaching classes. And I got to learn a lot that I was like, you know what, I'm going to take bits and pieces from all of them and do what works for my dog. And that's when I really learned, like, every dog is different. Just like people. What I'm good at, you may not be. What you're good at, I may not be. And I had to, again, kind of shift my mentality and relearn, like, all right, what I thought I knew, I got to kind of throw it out the window.
Yeah, it sucks about that first dog, man. You're lucky that, he only got a little nick, I guess, on the neck, and then hitting that window, man.
Yeah.
That would have been a fucking big hit to your confidence too, right? Because they're like, get the canine guy up here, and you're like, let's go, and he jumps in, and then just jumps out, and then butts in the window. Did you cop a heap of shit over that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And once he retired, I kind of used him as my guinea pig for dog training. Like, I'm gonna try this. What can I learn? I ended up getting into PSA. I tried going to Schutzen. They were worried because he would bite the bite suit. He wouldn't just target a sleeve. They were worried he was going to bite somebody. So I ended up going to PSA, and I trained for probably 2 years doing sport stuff in PSA, just trying to kind of hone my skills as a dog trainer, as a handler, and figure out, like, what do I have to do to be successful? Because, yeah, like you said, huge hit to my confidence. I'm like, man, these guys trusted me. I let them down, and I'm a failure. When in reality, looking back, it's like I didn't set my dog up for success. I didn't set myself up for success. And now, I have to have a whole different mindset of what I do every day, training with a purpose, not trying to throw, 100 goals into one training session. We're going to work on one thing at a time, and then we're going to piece them together. So that was huge ego check for sure.
Yeah. And then getting Solo, obviously he's you guys have worked together for a while now. He's a very different dog, man.
Very.
Can you contrast those couple of shit bites with Rico? Was his name? You said
Keto.
Keto, yeah,
Like the
keto.
diet.
Yeah. Can you contrast those two shit jobs with, say, your first one with Solo, for example?
Yeah. So my first job with Solo, burglary crew that was they were caught in the act by some street cops doing police work, good old fashioned police work, right? They're driving around the neighborhoods, they're looking for what's off, and they freaking out there, they see them, they start chasing them, they crash the car, 4 people flee from this car into a heavily brushed area, uh, and they disappear. So we set up best we could, get the helicopter up there. Our dogs don't track, so most dogs on the West Coast are not tracking dogs. For me, I call for a helicopter. I can get, like my job that I had today, I had 2 helicopters. So I get helicopters, I get as many cops as I could ever want, and we set up a containment and they're not going anywhere. And then we use all those tools. We use drones, the FLIR from the helicopter to find these guys, and then we send the dog out if they're not surrendering, or if the helicopter's not getting a FLIR hit, they don't know where they're at, but I still have them up in the sky in case they run, right? So I'm not having to do a track. So Solo's first job, really steep embankment, heavy brush. I had him for 10 weeks. So our canine school was 6 weeks long, and I got him on day 1 of the school, and go 4 weeks post canine school, right? You're certified, good to go. Brand new dog. I'm still trying to learn him, make sure he's not going to eat me. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know if he's going to recall. I'm going to run him on a long line. Get down there. It's pitch black. I can't see 5 feet in front of me. And it's so brushed in that I'm like, I can't use this long line. And the helicopter's trying to walk me into a safe deployment location. And the way they're explaining it to me, this guy's 15, 20 yards directly ahead of me and downhill. Not giving up, take off the leash, tell Solo to go search. And he takes off at a 45-degree angle to my left. And I'm like, dog's gone, right? You're going the wrong way. And I was just getting ready to recall him. And the helicopter's not saying anything, right? They're like, dog's away. And I'm thinking, are you going to tell me that my dog's going the wrong way? Like, I know you can see my dog through the FLIR. They don't say anything. Getting ready to recall him, and I hear one of the senior handlers from when I started, right? I hear him in my head, let your dog work. So I shut up, and like, it seems like just a split second after that, I hear the guy screaming. And I get excited now, right? My dog just bit somebody. For the first time, I have a successful deployment. And I start yelling at the guy because I don't know where he is. He's way off to my left now, and I'm thinking he's straight ahead of me. And the next thing I know, the helicopter hits him with the night sun, the big flashlight, and the only thing I see is Solo coming right back to me. And I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? You're supposed to be biting that guy. Solo is a titled KMPV dog, right? So he has an out and recall. The guy who had been kicking him And through the FLIR in the video, you could see Solo walk directly over the top of the guy, and then his head snaps around and he jumps on him, bites him in the elbow. He starts kicking Solo, and I'm yelling at the suspect. So Solo outs and comes right back. Perfect heel position. Like if I was in a trial, I would have got all the points. But I'm not points, right? My points are a booking form. When that guy goes to jail, like that's a win for me. And I'm thinking, oh crap. Now I'm going back down this road of having a failure. Well, lo and behold, the guy gives up. We take him into custody, and Solo did a number on his arm. Like, all right, I can work with this. Didn't verbal out that dog. Didn't do any obedience with him for probably 9 months. He was wild. I just turned him feral. I'm like, you know what? You just go find people and you bite them. I don't care. And then his second job was a full SWAT call, barricaded suspect who had pointed a rifle. He beat up his mom, pointed a rifle at the deputies that were responding, and then goes back in the house. Turns into a full barricade. I get there with Solo, go through the whole thing with my training partner that works on my shift, and he's like, no, man, Solo's got this. People are chipping in. I'm thinking, man, does he have this? Am I going to have an issue? My partner's telling me, Rob, he's like, no, man, Solo's got this. Like, I have the utmost confidence in your dog, which then boosts my confidence, right? I'm feeling good about it. Send him in the house. He searches like a madman. Recall him. He doesn't alert. Doesn't bite anybody. Move into the house. Redeploy him down a hallway. I watch him go into every room, every open door. There's only one closed door in that entire house. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, let's push that way, clear that side, and then we'll work this closed door. They use a bang pole. They breach the closed door, and Solo's taken off like a bullet. And he goes in there, and it's dead silent. I'm like, you gonna bite him? Fuss! Nothing. I could only see his tail wagging. SWAT team's like, hey, we gotta go in there. They move in. The guy's in the bed, covered with a blanket with Solo attached to his arm, not making a sound. I'm like, all right, success, right? And we've had several since then, and just through the training that the styles that I've learned, and all the things that I've learned from all these other amazing dog trainers that have real world experience, has really boosted my confidence. And seeing my dog perform at the level he's performing at, like from that point on, I was like, got this, buddy. You and me against the world. Let's go. And we go to every hot call there is. You know, if there's something going on, we're going to be a part of it. And yeah, that having that confidence in your dog was like life changing for me. You know, it was a special thing when at first I'm like, they're going to kick me off the unit. I'm having a failure. We're not doing what we need to do, to 180 degrees difference, right? Like we're getting everything done as we need to. He's crushing it, and he's making me look good. So it was a very drastic difference between the two dogs.
And how often is Solo getting bites? As in, so do the nature of the jobs change?
Yeah. So basically, for us, we have to have a good felony want, violence, something like that, to be able to deploy on this. And now, just with the laws and case law being what it is, we give these guys every chance to surrender. You know, we're not out. People think, oh, you're just out looking to bite people. We really are. You know, we want these guys to be taken into custody, and it's their choice as to how they go. Right. I would say at a minimum, we're giving them probably at a minimum an hour to surrender before we deploy a dog, unless it's something exigent, right? Where it's just we get there and this person's running, they're fighting, then it's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you ever go hands on much when you've got solo, or is he pretty much solve it by himself?
No. Uh, there's been a couple times where I've had to go hands on. Um, I ended up breaking my hand on a suspect's head. He was choking solo unconscious, and I see him,
Shit.
his eyes rolling back in his head. He's trying to kill my dog, and I could see that he's going to come off the bite. And I punched this guy in the head like 3 times as hard as I could. I've never hit anybody that hard in my life. And the third time I hit him, he finally lets go. And when he did, Solo comes back too, rebites him in the hand because he had popped off the bite. He bites him in the hand. One of the SWAT guys tases him. He pulls his hand out of Solo's mouth. And now we got 6 guys dogpiled on top of him. I have a broken hand. And they're still fighting, and Solo bites him in the leg. And he stays there. He's like, this is mine. Nobody take it from me. I had SWAT guys kicking Solo in the head while they're fighting. You know, that no fault of their own.
Yeah, like
Right?
just in the ruckus of
I-
limbs.
They're kicking him in the head, and Solo's like, I don't care. I'm in this. Typically, that's the only time I've really had to go hands on with somebody while Solo was on the bike. We've had a couple other calls where SWAT guys will get into it with them while they're trying to take him into custody, and this person's still fighting. But Solo has afforded us that 3-second advantage, right, to get out there and not be assaulted ourselves. We had guys throwing bricks and bottles and things like that, knives, and Solo's buying us time to get deputies out there to take this person into custody without any of us getting hurt. So, yeah, I've only thankfully had to go hands on with somebody once. Get in the fight.
Now let's get ahead to that officer involved shooting, man. Is this whilst you were canine, or was this before canine?
This was in between my time on SWAT and my time in canine. So I was actively decoying at the time, May of 2020, height of COVID.
Right, middle of COVID.
Nobody's doing anything, right? So everybody in my city, we're all at a park eating lunch. Call goes out of a disturbance, gets assigned to me. I start driving. Just, I'll go handle it. You guys enjoy your lunch. Driving down there, following every rule of the road, right? I'm not in a hurry. It's just one caller saying that they hear a disturbance. Nobody even sees it. It gets upgraded while I'm on my way there that the male, they now see it happening, and the male has armed himself with a baseball bat. So on lights and sirens, going, I get there, I don't see anybody. It's an apartment complex. There's 6 apartments, 2 stories in this little area. And I get into the courtyard. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. Nobody's waving me down. All right. I guess I'll just wait. By this time, I have other units coming. And I finally start hearing a female screaming. So for whatever reason, I go up the stairs. I pound on the door. That I can see there's forced entry. But something in my head says, hey, just knock and notice. I announce my presence, and something from the back side of that door starts hitting the door. And the door is now flexing the wrong way. Like it's about to open the wrong direction. I back up. I'm on a staircase. I've got an AR-15, and all of a sudden, my partner's behind me, and he's got a less lethal shotgun, so the beanbag rounds. And door opens. This guy's standing halfway in the apartment, halfway on the front landing. I can see his right hand; it's empty. Trying to talk this guy down. He is severely agitated and can't see his left hand. So I'm telling him, like, hey, just come out here, talk to us. No big deal. And he steps towards me and tries to hit me with a ball peen hammer. My partner shoots him with the beanbag shotgun. It hits him in the lower abdomen. He turns around like it never even hit him and walks inside. I'm like, at that point, now everything's slow motion. I watched that beanbag round leave the shotgun. The barrel's right over my shoulder. I see this round exit the barrel of this shotgun, hit him in the stomach, and he just wore it. So he goes inside the apartment. I still hear a female screaming. I step center on the door, and I see him running towards her with the hammer in his left hand, and he takes her classic hostage pose, right? He's got his right arm around her throat. He's raising the hammer like he's going to hit her in the head with it. And I call out a hostage rescue, and I run straight in. Everything in this apartment was broken. Furniture, TVs on the wall. It was just, this guy had done a number on this place. So my partner goes out to the side. I'm coming head on with him. He lifts the hammer to hit her in the head. And at that time, he kind of peels her away, opens his chest up to me. And while I'm on the move, I fire 3 times. Never remember taking my rifle off a safe. Never remember looking at my sights. Never even heard the gun go off. And this guy is now standing there. My partner grabs the female, takes off out the door, and this guy's standing in front of me, still holding the hammer. And I'm like, holy shit, I just shot this guy. And like, classic movie, he's wearing a t-shirt, and I could see the blood seeping through it. I'm like, oh shit, this just happened. And so third guy, I didn't even know he was there. He came in right behind us, and he had no idea what was going on. And he was one of my trainees maybe a month prior to that. He had just gotten off of training, brand new guy, and he is freaking out. Like, again, right? It's chaos where I find myself thriving. I'm like, hey, dude, put some gloves on and handcuff him. He's trying to use the radio. He's screaming, and now the whole world is coming. I get on the radio. Hey, take a deep breath. Shots fired. Start pneumatics. And I missed probably the most important piece of that information. Our hostage was okay, and all the cops were okay. Put out that I had one down, and now I've got the whole world coming. Nobody has any idea what just happened. One round missed. I got him once in the shoulder. He turned, and I got him in the rib cage, and that one went lung, heart, lung, and he was dead. And so my partners are working on him, and I see one round went through the wall. And come to find out, a year later, that one round ate me alive because I missed. Outside the wall where that round went was a playground. Thank God it was COVID because there was no kids there. And that one round ate me alive for a year because I didn't know it. I had no idea. I'd be everything status quo, life is normal, and it would just hit me in the face. What just happened? Right now I'm a mess for absolutely no reason. And so I go outside and I'm trying to make sure that stray round didn't hit anybody. I got sergeants coming up, trying to get me to tell them what happened. My lieutenant shows up because he was in the office. I put my rifle in the car. I grab my sergeant and I'm like, "You're coming with me." He's like, "Where are we going?" I said, "I missed. You need to make sure I didn't hurt somebody else." And while we're out kind of canvassing, my partners were inside working on this guy. They're trying to save his life, and the oven explodes. This guy had put propane tanks in the oven and turned it on. So he was 100% committed that he was going to die that day, and he was going to try to take somebody with him. And luckily, one of the guys that was there was on the bomb squad. And so this oven explodes. Every window in this place shatters. Fire department's already there. They handle all that stuff. And that's when they told me that he was dead. And they were like, "All right, you're coming with us." And for the next year, I sat on pins and needles thinking they're going to come arrest me. And this was the week before the George Floyd incident, where tensions are high. There's protests going on now, and everybody hates cops. And I'm thinking, they're going to try to make an example out of me for absolutely no reason, right? Like, I did my job. I did what I had to do. This guy made every decision, and I was okay with it, except for that one round. And so I spent a year, the higher ups the next day, 2 days after, they're calling, "Hey, you did a great job. You saved that lady's life. Good on you. You made the right call. Thanks." Right? "You need anything, you call us." The next phone call I got was a week later. "Hey, you ready to go back to work?" I said, "Well, you guys have my rifle?" I said, "I used it once. Who knows if I'm going to need it again?" They had lost my rifle, and it was personally owned. I purchased it, had it all approved by the department, and they lost it. And I told them, "I'm not coming back to work until you can find my gun."
Ooh.
Which I think ruffled some feathers. They weren't very happy with me because they weren't expecting me to say no. But I'm in my head going, I could go to work tomorrow and need my rifle, and now I'm without it. And they find it, and I didn't hear from any of the command staff for over a year. They would see me and turn the other way, walk away. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's a telltale sign, right? Like, they think something went wrong. The DA's office interviewed me. The homicide unit treated me like a suspect. Take your photos, do all of the things, and nothing against those guys. They're doing their job. Right? They have to investigate everything thoroughly. And I went to that interview, and the president of our police officer association is trying to give me alcohol right before my interview, that I'm being treated like a suspect. And you had mentioned it. I can't remember which podcast it was, but that organizational betrayal.
Mm.
I felt betrayed. Like, even my association, who's supposed to be protecting me, is trying to do me dirty. They're trying to get me to smell like booze, to go into this interview where they can make a judgment and say, "See, this guy's got problems. He did something." A year later, everything's cleared, good to go. The DA, the district attorney, said, "Yeah, you did nothing wrong. You did everything you had to save that woman's life." And then she sues me for in excess of the maximum penalty financially, right? So I think they said it was something like $15 million she was trying to sue me personally for saving her life. She lied to all the attorneys. and said that I just went in there and murdered him in cold blood. Come to find out, after the fact, 2 weeks, I think it was like 2 weeks prior, that suspect committed a robbery and he ran from me, well, from one of my partners. And I got in a foot pursuit, chase him down, and I take him to jail. So they were trying to say, oh, see, you had this incident with him prior, and now you were targeting him. And I had, at the time, I had no idea that it was even the same guy. Like, to me, I got in a foot pursuit, I chased somebody down, he went to jail, out of my mind. Right? I'm not dwelling over the fact of who this person is. And now she's trying to hang me out for that. Ultimately, she didn't show up to court. All the evidence came out. Her attorneys backed out of it, said, we want nothing to do with this case. She lied to us. All the evidence is completely contradictory of what she told us. She doesn't show up to court. She then goes to represent herself, still doesn't show up to court. And the judge dismissed it, saying, yeah, this never happened, right? Like the things that she's claiming never happened. And I'm just like that. I'm cleared. Like, well, now what? Right? Like, this is weird. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a canine. Now I'm in the canine unit. And
Oh
then
shit.
life goes on. And they ended up giving me, which I to this day, I hate it. And I hate even admitting that they gave it to me, right? They gave me the Medal of Courage for that call. And to me, I'm like, I'm just doing my job. I don't need an award for doing my job and saving somebody's life, no matter how big of a piece of crap she is, because she wanted to sue me, right? Her life was in danger, and I was going to do everything I could to save her. And they gave me an award for it 3 years later. It's like, I don't want recognition for this. I'm not proud of taking somebody's life. And it wasn't until I got told that they put me in for that medal that my mental health really started to decline. Uh, it was probably 2 weeks after my shooting. My best friend died of brain cancer.
Ooh.
Known him my whole life. You know, we rode motorcycles together. We rode bikes together. I saw him every day. And we were out riding motorcycles, and he has a seizure. That's weird. Matt's like the healthiest guy I know. How can he possibly have something wrong with him? Within like 2 months of that, he wasn't even there. Right? Mentally, he was in a wheelchair, couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything. He was on hospice, and I got a call one day when I was at work that he wasn't going to make it through the day. I watched him take his last breath. Swore he was gone. And then that freaking heart rate monitor kicks back up. I was in such denial that anything could happen to this guy. And I'm like, he's a fighter, right? He made it through the night. And I went the next morning to go see him, and I watched him take his final breath. Compartmentalized it, didn't process, didn't grieve, didn't do any of that. What did I do? Went right back to work. Yeah. 2 weeks after he passed, the first dog I ever owned as an adult died in my living room in my arms. And now I'm thinking everything in my life is going wrong. Anything that I get close to crumbles, gets destroyed. Um, my ex-wife, at the time we were still married, over the next 4 years, we had 4 miscarriages. The only thing I wanted in life at that point was to be a dad. I wanted to do all of the things that my dad did for me. I wanted to teach him to ride motorcycles. I wanted to go camping. I wanted to do all of that. 4 miscarriages. So now I'm really thinking, man, is it me? Right? Am I being punished now because of what I've done? So that's when I really had to start doing the work. And I found a therapist, went to therapy, zero help. So I wrote it off, buried everything, carried on. Life is normal. Got another shooting. This time I had solo.
Wow, I didn't know about this.
I wasn't a shooter. I had solo out. Call comes out. Uh, Female bleeding. She was stabbed in the parking lot of an apartment complex. Myself and my other canine partner are the first ones on scene. Like any of us, right? Any of us ADHD canine guys, we're gonna get there first. We get there. He starts doing medical aid on her. They tell me, hey, the suspect, he ran into that apartment. So now I'm starting to set everything up. All right, I got containment. I've got an entry team. Mom shows up. I go down the stairs. Say, hey, I need a key. And she goes, where's my other daughter? Well, what do you mean? I said, I have another daughter. She's supposed to be home right now. She gives me the key to the front door. I take the key. I grab Solo. And up the door we go. It's an electronic lock that uses some sort of a magnetic key to open it, similar to like a hotel room. I hand it to my point guy, and he goes, what the hell is this? I go, she said it's the key. He tries to open it, can't figure it out. He goes, what do I do? I go, she says her other daughter's inside. Kick that door down. He starts kicking the door, and it's not budging. He tries the key again. Key works, opens the door, and there's the suspect throwing knives at us. I don't see that. I missed that part. And I just hear 2 sets of gunfire. I hear a pistol go off and then a rifle. And it's a lot of rounds. And I have no idea at this point why they're shooting at this guy. I don't know what's going on. Shell casings are bouncing off the wall, hitting my dog in the head. And he's trying to push past everybody to go in there and bite this guy. Still looking for this other woman, right? This girl that's in there, this lady's other daughter. So I can't deploy him, thinking, if she's around the corner and she's screaming and he bites her, now what? And she was otherwise okay. Holy crap. So I'm completely deaf at this point. Auditory exclusion saved me in the first one that I was in. Not this time, because I had no idea it was coming. I can't hear anything. My ears are ringing. I take solo, put them in the car. I come back up, and they tell me that that other woman was dead. And now I'm doing medical aid on this guy that just threw knives at us. We end up saving him. That was it. On to the next job. And it was like, from that point forward, I was looking for those jobs. That's all I wanted to go to. I didn't want it to be any of my partners. I didn't want anybody else to be put in a position to have to be involved in a shooting, to have to potentially take somebody's life or have somebody try to kill them. I wanted it to be me. My then wife gets pregnant, goes full term, and I'm thinking, man, we're in the clear. I'm going to have a baby boy. On his due date, she goes into labor. Everything's going fine. They have a heart rate on him. She delivers him, and they immediately start doing CPR. We were at a midwife center. Half a block away from the hospital. The ambulance gets there, and in my mind, I'm going to run him there. I can get him there faster than the freaking ambulance. Ambulance shows up. They're still working on him. And now I'm angry, questioning God. Why does all this stuff keep happening to me? What have I done? I'm breaking stuff. I'm angry. I was just pissed off at the world. And they couldn't save him. Went from the best day of my life, and I was going to be a dad, the one thing I wanted most, having to plan a funeral for my baby boy. Yeah. And my life spiraled. I'd met you and Sean the year before. We had talked several times about, my first shooting and talked to you guys pretty regularly. Um, and honestly, if it wasn't for you, Sean, another guy I worked with at the counterterrorism task force, and two of my coworkers, I wouldn't be here. We would not be having this conversation. I was drinking heavily, and I was done. There was nothing left for me in this world. And the five of you guys talked me off that ledge. That's when I really started to do that hard work, right? Found a new therapist, went and did EEG brain mapping,
nonprofit here in California called Bud's Odyssey. Paid for it. They set me up 6 months of treatment. Um, my then wife and I were in the beginning stages of the divorce, and I was living in my car. But I didn't want to let anybody else down. So I was committed to doing that work to be a better version of myself for my son.
Your son have a name?
Matthew. Matthew Knox Sanders. So my company, MKS K9, it's his initials.
Nice.
I always wanted to pass something down to him, leave him with something. And now, we were laughing earlier about I have 20 dogs, 19 Malinois, but it's all for him. This is his legacy. About that time when I started doing all the work, I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, autism spectrum disorder. I'm missing something. There's something else. Not important.
ADHD, bro.
ADHD. Here we go. And to go into a therapist's office when you're committed to being a better person and have them give you all these tests and then tell you that there's a bunch of stuff wrong with you doesn't help. I remember calling Sean and I tell him, I said, man, like, it's not going good, right? They just threw all these, they threw the DCM-5 at me, right? They write books about me. And he laughs at me. He's like, you're a canine handler. We've all got it. I talk to you. You tell me the same thing. We're all the same way. We all run to those types of jobs. We all do that for a reason, right? We're built different. It's not a disability. It gives us a different set of capabilities for doing something that a majority of the population could never do. And that's when you guys changed everything for me. Right? I was self-pity, right? Woe is me. I have all these things wrong with me. And then to talk to you guys and you're like, welcome to the club. Right? Oh man. Maybe there isn't something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not broken. Yeah, I went through some bad stuff. Doesn't have to define me. Yeah.
Knew, like I knew you had a couple of things going on, but I didn't know it all happened in that succession, like so quick, like that. Fuck, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was over the course of 5 years. 4.5 years, something like that, that it just felt like the universe was out to get me.
You're a man of faith, aren't you, Craig?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a really challenging time for my faith. How could God do this to me? And then the pastor of the church that I was going to that did the service for Matthew, he's a retired assistant sheriff with my department. And we had a lot of lengthy talks, and he said, "Did you ever think that the life Matthew was saving would be your own?" And to have to look at it that way was eye-opening. I was headed down a path of self-destruction after Matthew passed. That, like I said, we wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for some people putting some long hours in the middle of the night, the other side of the world, to put the time and effort into helping me.
Do you believe you're going to see Matthew again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just had a litter of puppies. It was my female's first litter that she ever had. 11 puppies. One of them was stillborn. That's Matthew's puppy. And I know that when I see him again, whenever that is, he's going to show me all the things that he's done with that puppy.
I knew this was going to happen.
Like I told you, we're not cutting anything out.
No. I love this shit. This is why I do the potty, man, because people get to listen to this and maybe it'll change their life, or change their perspective on something, or it's something you can show your family, Yeah, man. Phew. Bro, weird question, man. Do you feel like a dad?
Yeah, absolutely. I have his.
Bro, that's amazing.
I've got his little footprints that they took in the hospital. I have them tattooed on my chest, and he's with me everywhere, every day, and it's name my company after him. Everything I do is for him now. I absolutely feel like a dad. I just unfortunately missed out on some of the things that I had hoped to do, but I know that one day we'll get to do them.
Yeah. How much have you talked about this before this podcast?
Quite a bit to a select few of people. I never shy away from talking about him, ever. That's why I got his feet prints tattooed on my chest. I never want to have it feel like a sore subject.
Yeah.
people were walking on eggshells around me for a long time. Nobody knows what to say. And there are no words that change anything. Nothing makes it feel better. Nothing changes what happened. But the worst thing that you can do for anybody, well, I'll speak for myself, but for people in my position, and I know there's a few guys that would say the same thing, but the worst thing you could do is avoid talking about it directly to us, right? About the same time that Matthew passed, unbeknownst to me, there's a dog cop over in Australia that went through the very similar thing.
Ooh.
And it was brought up to me, not naming him by name, keeping the respect for him and his family and the things that he's been through, but more of saying, you're not alone in this. And this last year, ATK9 there went and on my own dime to go to that conference. Met a ton of guys. Met some guys from your old unit. Met some guys from the Queensland Police. And mutual contact of ours goes, hey, I'm going to pull you aside real quick. Yeah, what's going on? He goes, hey, I just want to introduce you to somebody. I think you guys have a lot in common. Unbeknownst to me, it was that guy that went through the very similar experience as me. And we had been hanging out for a week. Had no idea. And now we're pretty good friends. I think unfortunately there's events like that in people's lives that bring people together for a reason. And he gave me a challenge coin, and that challenge coin is in my vest pocket with me every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot, Craig.
He's one hell of a man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, man. And then it's, dude, I obviously only know you to, like, the other guy I've never met, but we've chat on the phone and text and stuff. Met you once, but man, I remember hearing when you and I were going to book in the podcast, and you said, "Sorry, man, can't make it." Told me why, and I was like, "Man, I got to tell you, man, that was a time I was really struggling to be a dad." Same thing happened with the other guy. I'm hearing about both those things, and each time, man, it wrecked me for like a few days, bro. Let alone being the one that goes through it. And but yeah, man, I don't know, man. Like listen to you say this stuff now and talk about it, and hearing that you guys hooked up, man. It's, I don't know, dude. It puts something together for me. You know what I mean? Like it's a puzzle piece that's in place for me. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. How do you deal with that, dude? How do you go through that? How do you put that? How do you categorize that?
I That's a hard question to answer, right? Because I don't necessarily categorize it like I would any of the other trauma that I've experienced. I was the king of masking things. Now being diagnosed with depression, and I look back at certain events through my life, and it's obvious that I was struggling from depression, but I didn't want anybody to see it. Right? So I put on the smile. Nobody had any idea. On I went. I compartmentalized everything. But this is something that I have made an effort to not do that with. So I haven't really thought about that. How do I categorize it? This is a life event that I can't change, but it helps define who I am. Yeah. It helped me understand a lot of the other things that I was dealing with that I was ignoring, avoiding all that. And it made me work on myself.
Did speaking to that other Queensland canine handler, did that help a lot? Has he helped you process? Has he given you things and you've given him some things?
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll check in with each other from time to time. And, I was hoping to get out there this year. We're going to try to do a week training with some of the guys from your old unit, and then a week training with those guys, and really just get over there to more of the camaraderie. I've always wanted to go to Australia. My mom and my dad have been, and they tell me, "Oh, you got to see all the things." Like, I don't want to go for the sightseeing. I want to go for the people, because the people, what I've learned now in life, is that it's the people that matter. Can't take any of this stuff with me. Right? I've traveled all over the world. I've trained dogs in Belgium and Holland and Germany. I've raced motorcycles in Turkey. None of it matters. It's the people that matter. And, we've helped, at least he's helped me understand that and put that more at the forefront of my thought process, to where it's not necessarily, oh, I'm going to do this big trip. I'm going to go see these things. I'm going to do these things. It's like, no, none of that matters. And whether he even knows it or not, I see things that he posts on social media and things like that make that realization that much stronger for me.
Yeah, and I think he listens to this podcast, man. So he's going to hear all that, dude. I think that's going to mean a lot to him, man, and to Soggy as well, dude. All the stuff you said about him. Oh, Craig, you fucking got me bad, bro.
We knew it was coming from both of us.
Oh, dude, mate, this morning, man, I was telling my wife, I'm like, I know what's coming. We got delayed last time, but it's happening this time, and I was like, and I made sure I did a big workout this morning, get some of the stress out of my body, man. I'm gonna meditate after, dude.
Yeah, I saw your post in the sauna.
This morning, yeah. Oh man. Anyway, yeah, it's just over there actually. Dude, so what's like that all happened in a relatively short space of time, man. There's so much in that process, dude. Like there's the shooting itself, there's the organizational betrayal, there's even the divorce with your wife. Obviously, there's Matthew, man. There's like, dude, And all this time you're rocking up to work, you're going to jobs, maybe doing some SWAT stuff, training solo, you know, all that sort of stuff. What does that do to a man? You know, like yeah.
You know, it wears you down. And it was more of the time when I wasn't really focusing on my healing, that I was just keeping myself busy just to be busy and having no purpose, right? I'm busier than I've ever been now with all these dogs and all this stuff, but there's purpose behind it. And if you don't have purpose, you don't have a reason to get up every morning, you won't, right? If you don't commit to doing the work on yourself, you'll never do it. And the next thing you know is you'll be, never getting out of bed. You'll be pissed off all the time. Everybody will hate being around you. I mean, there was a time after Matthew passed, the guys on my team didn't want to be around me. I was a cancer on my team because I was just so angry. I was mad at the world. And it took a lot to recognize that, to apologize to those guys, and to kind of eat crow and say, hey, I was in the wrong. I need to be better. And I'm committing to doing that, to being better. And yeah, that if you don't do that, you're just going to go down that path of destruction that I was on. And it doesn't lead you to anything good.
So what's the department been like since then? Because that was over a year ago, man. I feel like that was maybe almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, so Matthew passed January 18th of 24. So
Oh wow!
It's just 2 years.
Oh shit!
At first, and this kind of plays into that, what I perceived as organizational betrayal. Everybody was, we're here for you. You need anything, you let us know. They were bringing meals to the house. They were, supporting us, doing all of that. And then it fell off. And now it almost seems like it's lost, like people have, they just moved on from it. I'm never going to move on from it, right? That's not something that I move on from. But realizing, like I was saying earlier, that people don't know what to say, so they don't say anything at all. And understanding that it's not done out of malice, that people just avoid it because they don't know what to say. They don't know how to act around you. There's certain people in the organization, the department, that still check in from time to time. There's, all the guys on my team are awesome when it comes around those times, his birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, those times that the people that are close to me, that I would give the shirt off my back to, and they would do the same for me, that are still checking in because we've had the conversation. I know you don't know what to say, but saying nothing is almost worse. I think the hardest part was right after he passed. I got my bereavement leave, 40 hours. So it's all the time they gave me. Other than that, I needed a doctor's note to have time off.
And I went to the doctor, and he says, I don't have any medical reason to write you off of work. And now I'm pissed, right? I'm about to duke it out with the doctor in the office right there. He gets me all jacked up, and then he takes my blood pressure. He goes, "Oh, look at that. Your blood pressure just through the roof. You're going to need to be on blood pressure medication. We'll recheck you in 3 weeks." Here I am being an asshole. Right, I'm about to punch this doctor in the face. And he's like, "You're off work for 3 weeks."
That is a very, very calculated move from that doctor that could have gone horribly wrong. Yeah. Dude, and some of the stuff you said there is so important for people to hear, and it's something I had to learn the hard way as well. Like the organization and the people that you work with, their job is not to fix you. They can save you, but their job is not to do the fixing. But that's a hard thing for us to come to terms with, hey, because we're like,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we think fixing and saving are the same thing.
Right. Especially in our lines of work. Right? Because they call us when they need their problem solved. When they need saving. Well, what do? We solve the problem and it saves them. So we think, why can't somebody do that for us? Right? You and all the other military guys, you're going out on behalf of an entire country to be saved, right? Whichever way you want to look at that. We're doing it here from job to job. It may look different, but we have the same expectation. I'm here to solve somebody's problem and save them and fix them. Not fixing anything, right? Maybe that instant I fixed the problem. Nobody's trying to murder them anymore. But that doesn't fix the trauma that they've experienced. But we don't look at it that way. We're on to the next.
Yeah, and when it happens to you like that, that's when it hurts the most, because you're like, hang on a minute. It's I hate to use the term, but it's like an expectation management thing. You know what I mean? They can tell you that all they want, but until it happens to you and you take it personally and the emotions involved and something actually happened to you, you can't not take it personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking things personally doesn't solve your problem either. It doesn't fix it. It's doing the hard work yourself. That saying that nobody's coming, you got to save yourself. There's people that help you. Can help you along that journey. But if you're not willing to help yourself, then what? You got to step up and you got to commit to doing it.
So what does life look like for you now, back on the road, post all this stuff going on? What's day-to-day look like?
Day to day, wake up at 3 a.m., train dogs, feed dogs, go to work. And, I work 10 hours Sunday through Wednesday with solo. And it's the finding that compassion, that understanding that, like my dad told me years ago, like, this is somebody's worst day. And then recalling my own worst day and being more present in that moment. And then, I still go job to job.
now I make it a priority on the hard ones, right, to take a moment to reflect on that, so I don't compartmentalize it, and that I don't just file it away for it to boil over later. And then, I do a lot of that reflection. I come home from work and I train dogs. And I go back to, I got a 17-week-old Dutch Shepherd that he's probably sick of me, because I'll just go out there and we're just going to do some training, whether it's bite work, obedience, whatever. But that's my time to decompress, and making it a point to have some way of decompressing that's not hitting the bottle. So that's not going to solve anybody's problem, right? That just makes everything worse, makes you numb, but then your problems get exponentially worse. So, all these dogs, well, yeah, everyone looks at me like, dude, you're nuts. Why the hell do you have 20 Malinois, 19 Malinois at your house? Like, little do they know, like, these dogs are saving me. This is my time. Yeah, sometimes it's a pain. I just want to sleep in, but no, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna train these dogs, and it's my time to prepare for my day in the morning. I go to work. I come home. I decompress, and then we hit it again the next day. And then obviously the other pieces to that, right? Exercise, meditation, those kinds of things. But like when I work my dogs, that's like my meditation time, and using that as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. It's not I have to, it's I get to. I get to do this. That's how fortunate I am, right? And it's all a matter of perspective. If you have the wrong perspective, which goes with anything, then where's that going to take you? Right.
Do you think going through all that stuff made you a better cop when you come out the other end of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. To not just move on to the next and it sucks this happened to you. Not going to let it affect me, when it does affect you in some way, right? Whether you want to admit to it or not. But I mean, like just on today's job, right? We're chasing burglary suspects all over. Well, that person broke into somebody's house and was hiding in their house. And an elderly couple, and well, I moved stuff at their house to make it easier for me to do my job. This old lady can't move this object, right? It's way too heavy for her. It's way too cumbersome and awkward to move. It took 2 cops to move it. 2 guys in their 30s, 20s, 30s. And now I could have just been like, sorry, old lady, find somebody else to solve that problem for you. Right? But no, you know what? I'm going to take the time, 5 minutes, go have a conversation with this lady. Is there anything I can do for you to make your life easier? Right? That's all it takes. And being that type of cop rather than the cop I was before, I got to hurry up and get done with this job because there might be a new one. There might be a shooting. There might be a stabbing. There might be a robbery. How often does that come one after the other after the other? It doesn't. Right? But what if that you play the what if game all day? Or what if I ask this lady if she needs anything? And then if that call comes out, sorry, I have to go. Somebody else needs me. Right? I think 100% made me a better cop. It made me a better partner. It made me a better canine handler. made me a better person in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, man. I think some of the best dudes I had that I saw and worked with in my military career had been fucked over or had something bad happen to them at some point. They recovered from it and they had like the term I use now is realistic, not nihilistic. So they had an idea about what the reality of the organization was, or the job, or life, or whatever it was. They can put things into perspective a lot quicker because there's not as much emotion involved because they've been through the emotion, they've been fucked over, they've felt the pain. Yeah, that's good, man. That's so good, bro. Hey, dude, we've been going 2.5 hours. We'll wrap it up so you can go and keep living your life. That was about as intense as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Mate, I got, and dude, there's 1,000 other things we could have talked about in there, man. The shooting itself, the organisation stuff, George Floyd, COVID, all of that, man. Maybe we do a part 2 when you come to Australia.
Perfect.
Dude, I just got 3 questions I want to ask you at the end. First one, man, what does your service mean to you, bro?
My service. So to me, it's having the ability to show up and, be present for anybody. And it's not even just a law enforcement thing, right? It's a daily life service, being present for people, acknowledging, instead of just being like, hey, how's it going? Good, cool, see you later. Being able to be present and be like, hey, dude, you sure? That answer was half-assed. You good? Like, I'm here. That's the service to me, right? It's the service of others to be, I'm not just providing law enforcement service. I'm not just providing dog training service. I'm going to be present for each person that I come in contact with, whether it be a friend, coworker, a complete stranger, whoever that may be, to be somebody that somebody else can rely on.
That's good, man. I like that. Especially this, service in everyday life, right? It doesn't just end when you get home and, you're like, I think people that are in service-based roles, especially the specialist ones, I think you're just serving all the time, man. You're always thinking about other people. And I think, you're probably lucky in the sense that now you've got a new perspective where you can start to have a bit of that compassion for yourself as well and serve yourself. And that's what I meant before about sometimes when people get fucked over, that teaches them to take care of himself as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man.
So I definitely wasn't doing that.
Yeah, nah, mate, he had so much fucking going on. I can understand. Dude, next question, man. Who are you outside of your service? Which I guess you kind of already answered that.
Me, I try to be, that person that is reliable, that can be counted upon whenever, to whoever, right? And that really, that perspective came into play when it's really been there my whole life, right? Like there's been times that one of my neighbors, their truck broke down, and they were in Nevada, and my dad drove out there to let them borrow his truck, right? So it was something that I was witnessing my whole life. My brother calls me and he says, hey, if you need that, I'll fly out to California. I can drive with you. Or if you come out here, I can drive with you back, whatever it is, right? Next week, I have to go across the country. My dad just dropped everything and said, hey, I'll drive with you. Make it easy for me, right? So that's that's the who I strive to be. That's the who I am. I want to be that person to whoever it may be.
That's good as well, man. And last question, man. If you had to give some advice to either a younger you going into the job or someone else going in, what's that advice, man?
There's a lot of it. But the biggest one is it's okay to not be okay. And to recognize that and not be ashamed of needing help. Nobody's going to solve the problem for you, like we talked about, but there's people that can help you. And at least in the States, in law enforcement, it's always been frowned upon to talk about mental health, to admit that you need help. And that's something that I would push to anybody is it's okay to not be okay as long as you're going to do something about it. Like seek out help. Don't just say, I'm not okay. And just live not okay. Do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Dude, that's such an important thing, man. I think, like, you know, almost sometimes it's like it's all about awareness and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty fucking aware now. You kind of got to be like, all right, this is what you go and do. You don't just live, like you said, you don't just live the rest of your life not okay and be like, oh, well, I guess it's all right to be like this. You're like, no, it's not okay to live like that. So yeah, that's a good one, man. Hey, dude, let's wrap it up there, man. That was quite the conversation. Yeah. Thank you very much, for your honesty and for being vulnerable and throwing all that stuff out there, man. That's just fucking epic, dude. Man, and I hope that,
thank you,
man. Oh, dude, you're so welcome, man.
You know, I was talking to some friends before, and I'm like, man, Tom wants me to come on and do this podcast, and I really truly feel like I'm walking the footsteps of giants, right? Talking to you and Sean and all the guys that you interview, right? I don't feel qualified to be on this podcast, right? Because there's people that have been through what I perceive as way worse things. People that have been blown up, people that have XYZ. So I truly appreciate you having me on here and giving me that channel to hopefully help somebody, you know, whoever it may be, whatever they may be going through. But yeah, I truly feel like I'm walking in the footsteps of giants because you guys are doing it. You're helping the people. You guys helped me. You saved my life, and yeah, it's been an honor. So appreciate you.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate you too, bro. And you are very much worthy to be on this podcast, bro. Don't worry, you're one of the giants, man.
I appreciate that.
All right, everyone watching and listening at home, thank you for bearing with us through the emotional podcast that was. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks for listening to that episode. We've got more episodes on the way. In the meantime, check out warriorsandwardens.com for keynote speaking or workshops for operational readiness and longevity in military or first responder teams using emotional well-being and sharing lived experience. I'm your host, Tom Brown. See you next time.